Hi guys, Devil Hunter XYZ, and this installment of The Good and the Bad, I decided to continue with Devil May Cry and move on to what I think is actually my favorite game in the series itself, Devil May Cry 3 Dante's Awakening. And yeah, this game is pretty much a prequel of the original Devil May Cry, kind of exploring Dante's demon-like powers and his kind of opening business, and at the same time trying to, save the world from the whole incident with involving Virgil and the Temini Gru and trying to resurrect the demon world once again. Yeah, but I gotta say, this game became so good that it ended up having a special edition. Yeah. Of course, originally the whole special edition was mainly because of the fact that the original game was actually kind of too difficult for some people. So, yeah, I mean, this was before DLC, this was back on the PS2, so they had to re-release the game itself. But, I mean, it's more than just difficulty adjustments from the special edition. I mean, they also added in turbo mode. They have very hard mode. They have Bloody Palace, and I guess the main thing is being able to play as Virgil in this game. So let's see how they hold up today. Well, I'd say for the good of Devil May Cry 3, I mean, honestly, there's a lot of things I do like about it. I mean, anywhere from like the story itself to the level design to the personality of the characters. But I guess maybe for me, the top three that I would go with. For one, I do like the new mechanics they threw into the game. I'm talking about, like, for instance, the lock-on system, the fact that there's a visible indicator, kind of like in the second game, but it also doubles as the enemy's health. So instead of having like an actual life bar on the bottom of the screen, kind of obscuring the view. And along with that, I would say having the new weapon switching system, where you can actually switch between two different close range and long range weapons. I mean, that really does help out when you're trying to perform some combos. And also, I really do like the whole new style system that they add to the game. It kind of adds a little bit of variety to it. I mean, going anywhere from playing like evasively, using trickster style to like avoid attacks and stuff like that, to having excessive moves with close range combat with the sword master, more long range combat with the gunslinger, and I guess for any weird sense you can play defense in an action game like this using Royal Guard, along with additional styles that they add into it. Second thing that I do like about it is, along with that, I would probably say the weapons, actually. I think the weapons here are like really good variety and pretty unique in their own right. You have five close range and five long range. Well, for Dante anyway. For Virgil, he only has three close range weapons. I mean, well, I'll get to him in a bit, but with Dante, I mean, he has the traditional rebellion sword. He has the ebony and ivory, the shotgun, but he also gets unique ones like what was it, like the Artemis, I believe it was called, where it's like a laser type weapon. They got the spiral rifle. You have eventually you do get Ladies Kalina and rocket launcher, and then of course you got a lot of short range weapons, which you get those from defeating bosses, and they all kind of perform different elemental type attacks. So you kind of have to test them out and see what kind of weapons work on which enemies. Kind of give you some variety on that. For Virgil, on the other hand, with the whole weapon stuff, Virgil only has three close range weapons because the only long range he has is his summon swords, which, I mean, for the most part, they do the job. They fire slower than Dante's Ebony and Ivory, but they are more powerful. But Virgil, he has his traditional Yamato sword, the Beowulf, and then he also has the Force Edge, so in a way he can mimic a little bit of Dante's moveset. Yeah, there's not really much variety per se when it comes to his movesets. I mean, Virgil really more focuses on brute force and power. That's kind of what he focuses on, as opposed to Dante, who focuses mainly on combos. Yeah, so you have two different characters that kind of play two different ways. And third thing I do like about this game in general, I would have to say probably the bosses. As weird as that is, I would say the boss battles are pretty interesting. In previous Devil May Cry games, especially with 2, the boss battles were kind of underwhelming. because you're more or less just going after the boss and then just keep unleashing bullets or unleashing sword slashes, whatever, until they stagger, whatever. Yeah, so it kind of just boggles down the pace of the whole action game, and it doesn't really feel anything. But in this game, though, there are some strategies that you have to incorporate in order to defeat the bosses. And you can't just go on brute force and like keep attacking them. Like you had to actually plan out on how you actually defeat them. Especially in some cases like, well, I don't know, like for instance, doppelganger, and the fact that you have to reveal the shadow and light in order to even do any damage to him. And then of course you got bosses like, I guess maybe. Hell yeah, actually, I was probably even Virgil himself. I mean, Virgil's pretty tricky to deal with since he teleports all over the place and he can actually deflect your bullets. So you can't rely on gunfire forever. So yeah, you kind of have to actually plan accordingly to how you really defeat these bosses. Well, as much as I like to say this game is perfect, every game has their flaws, and of course this is no exception. For one, I would probably say the camera is still an issue. Um, I would say it's as bad as the first game, but there will be times where you're gonna have to kind of work with the camera, try to get it to the right angle so you can see the enemies. Granted, though, I mean, in the game there are more open areas compared to what it was in the original Devil May Cry. The second, I would have to say, is the excessive amount of battles. As strange as that is, comparing it to the second game, but I think that was kind of the thing. In the second game, you could pretty much bypass most of the enemies, avoiding most of the combat. And I think here they were trying to do the exact opposite. They were trying to get you closed in using those red sealed doors to try to get you engaged in battles all the time. But I kind of think they overdid it because it kind of gets to the point where it's just it's just repetitive. You enter one room fighting a group of demons, you enter the next room and then you have to fight another group of demons. It just gets a little too much in my taste. And I would say the third thing, this may be more of a subjective thing, but I do like the fact they did had Virtual in the special edition, don't get me wrong, but what I think they could have done better, or I don't think was pretty great, is the fact that Virgil is a standalone character. I'm only saying that because the fact that Virgil's game is exactly the same as Dante's. The exact same missions, you got the same type of secret missions if you want to do them. The bosses are all the same. I mean, really, it's just the same game as Dante's, just playing as Virgil. So I mean, it just doesn't really make too much sense. Why exactly do we have a standalone game as Virgil? I think it would have been better off if they could have just maybe have Virgil as like I don't know, I guess like a costume swap, I guess. Just have him in the whole selection where Dante is, for like selecting different costumes you can choose. Yeah, it probably would have been the better case right there. Well, I guess for improvement's sake, at least for what I think could be improved with Devil May Cry 3, um, well, I mean, the whole camera issue, like I said, it's kind of been a long-going issue. It seems like it's always going to be there no matter how hard they try to remedy that situation. But I guess for the other issue of the over excessive amount of battles, I mean, maybe just reduce the amount of those red doors. That could be one thing. I mean, we don't have to have a battle like every single screen we transition to, but maybe like a few battles out of every mission that may be required, I guess. And I think the main thing for Virgil, I think what would have actually been interesting is if Virgil would have had his own set of missions, like his own story. I know that would be kind of too much to really say for one game like this. And granted, the special edition came out a year after the original game, so there was really no way they could have made up a whole new game within a year itself. But I don't know, maybe in the future, what if they were to like re-release this game, for like another, I don't know, I guess another HD type collection, I guess. I mean, it would be something if they could like have new missions for Virgil, like have his own story, like maybe telling the game through Virgil's perspective. That would be something quite interesting to work with. Well, overall, Devil May Cry 3 is a pretty good game. Almost near perfect game. Some flaws, but it doesn't really detract from the overall experience. And if you manage to get your hands on the special edition, I mean, that's like a lot more content. And considering, depending on which version you get, either the PS2 or the HD collection, the game out of the HD collection, I mean, you're gonna have a really good time with it. And I mean, it's a lot better than obviously a lot better than the second Devil May Cry, and even the first one, in my opinion. And it's not really a bad game to start out with in general. I mean, not for yeah, I mean, for one thing, the whole timeline-wise, story-wise, I mean, it is a prequel game, but it does have a lot of interesting features that kind of do carry over to the future installments of Devil May Cry from that point. So I mean, it's not a bad place to start. And with that, I would give Devil May Cry 3, the original and the special edition, I would probably give it a 9 out of 10. I mean, it's almost a perfect game, and I would highly recommend getting this game, trying it out. I mean, you could probably find it pretty cheap now, like on the PS2 if you have one, or just get your hands on the HD collection and start playing this one, because trust me, it's a pretty good time with it. You're gonna have a really good time. Maybe give yourself some challenge every now and then. If you want to go bump up to higher difficulties. But it's the start of Dante's journey right there. All right. Well, this is Devil Hunter XYZ, and until next time.